What's going on, guys? This will be the first video for my channel other than my introduction video. Today we're going to be talking about the Republic government, how it fell, and things like that, what could have done better, or what I would have done better, personally. So let's start with describing the Republic. The Republic has three sections, similar to the American government. We have the Chancellor, the Senate, and the Judiciary. Chancellor, unlike our real world America, does not have much power at all. He's very limited, actually, in what he can actually do. He just calls on sessions for Senate to make laws, to pass things, to pretty much as like an overseer, be like, hey, we got this on the agenda, let's do this, yada yada yada. Doesn't have much of actual special powers or abilities. The Senate, of course, is what makes up the laws and things of the land. That representatives from different planets and galaxies and things of that nature. That also be corporations as well, like the Trade Federation technically was a part of it whenever they first started their attack, but they eventually broke off from it and started their own thing. They're going on with that whole Trade Federation thing. Then there's the Judiciary. There's the courts, similar to our Supreme Courts and stuff like that. They don't do much either. They just handle crime and stuff like that. They don't even handle crime for the Senate. They just ignore that and let the Senate handle themselves. They don't keep anything in check, unlike the United States. But so they just, as I said, investigate and figure things out. Whenever Padme Amidala was almost assassinated, they sent out people to investigate, but the Jedi Order ended up taking over that because of it was the Senate, and Chancellor Palpatine requested that they look into it instead. So those are three branches. If you don't know what a Senate is or Judiciary, pretty much just look up U.S. American government. Explain it for you. Except the Senate has way more power than all the rest of it. So let's start with the Chancellor at the time. Was not Chancellor Palpatine. It was somebody different. During the invasion of Naboo, during the invasion of Naboo, Padme Amidala went and did a vote of no confidence and got her friend Palpatine in there, who, as we know now, is a Sith Lord, and orchestrated the whole thing all the way back. So after that, after the Battle of Naboo's finished and done, Jar Jar Binks became representative as well and voted to grant the Chancellor emergency powers. Everybody in the Senate agreed because they were safety from the comfort of their offices and things like that. And they didn't care as long as they were safe, so they just let it happen. They gave Palpatine emergency powers. Palpatine took over and formed the clone army, and then the Clone Wars began. So, having said all that, I'll say this. This video is about the Republic during the Clone Wars. If you like it enough, I may make one on the High Republic as the Old Republic, and maybe even on the Republic after the First Order, and compare them. The First Order Republic is there's not much established about it as far as I know from what I read. So that one might be just a bit more I might combine it, talking about it and the First Order if I get around to it at some point, if y'all are interested in that. Alright, so now that I've established what the Republic is, let's talk about how they fell and what was wrong. So first things first. Now they fell, as I said before. They established the Clone Wars, they got Palpatine in. They were unaware that Palpatine was a Sith Lord. They figured they could trust him. They figured that they could, do what they wanted to do. And which we turned out is wrong. So, cue the Clone Wars, keep it on going on. He establishes more and more powers, until eventually it comes to a point where the Jedi figure out who he is because Anakin tells them. And it's like, hey, He's a Sith Lord. And they're like, okay, you stay here. Let us handle that. And he's like, well, I should be there. And they're like, no, stay here. Stay away from him. To be fair, if he would have listened, we probably would have never got Darth Vader. He would have stayed back. Padme would still be alive. So, I mean, in reality, dang, I just thought about that. If he hadn't have went to Palpatine's office after they were there and let them keep fighting, we'd have never got Vader, and would have never got, and Padme would still be alive. Republic would probably still be there, even though they weren't going to kill Sidious, but, you know, we don't find that out till way later in The Rise of Skywalker, which I think is bullshit anyway. Like even if they did, they couldn't kill him there. And I'm just like, that whole thing of you can't die is dumb to me. Like, because if that was the case, then there'd be a lot more Sith alive. But that digress. That's for a whole nother video. So at the end of it, they ended up ordering, as you know, Order 66, killing all the clones and stuff like that. The clones killed the Jedi. And the Jedi escaped, ran away. Then Palpatine went before the Galactic Senate and told them what had happened, attempted suicide, said, hey, we should establish a galactic empire instead. And the Senate agreed. Which shows you how much of idiots they were. But, you know, give up democracy for totalitarianism, and gotta love it. So that's how it fell, and it turned into the Empire and all that, and that's a whole other video in itself. Which, in reality, like, the Empire was not as bad as people say. And I know I might catch some flack for that, but I don't care. So I say that because they did bring order to the galaxy. They brought economy. They brought, you know, jobs. The Death Star alone had millions of people, almost billions, employed. I mean, surely the benefits had to be great, you know, because I mean they weren't using clones; they were hiring people. So, I mean, if you're hiring people, you must have good stuff. But that's for another video. I'll do a deep dive into that and what all they did and how all that. So, let's talk about first what could have been done differently. Personally, for me, and I'm going to pull up an image real quick. This is a summary of what I've said so far. So, as I got down there in the bottom of Chancellor, I feel as though the Chancellor should have, in the time of where war powers are enacted, the Chancellor should have been elected. The Jedi should have been elected as the Chancellor to handle all that. Mind you, Jedi are not as easily corrupted. They are less power hungry and more peaceful, so they'll be looking for ways to end the war fast. Unlike Palpatine, who, you know, wants it to go on. That's what I would do. I would have a Jedi doing it, because it just makes more sense that way. You know, you have the Jedi Order, so why not use them for something? You know, like, I never understood that. The only thing they're used for is a peacekeeping order, but yet there's never hardly any stuff to peacekeep before this point. Like, they're kind of just sitting there stagnating, collecting people. Students. So, but, whatever. That's a whole other topic for another day. I might do a deep dive in Jedi Order as well. So, the Chancellor. That's what I said. I said a Jedi should have become the Chancellor, not another senator. One that could be easily corrupted or already corrupted. One that did not really have a whole planet behind it wanting to, you know, say, hey, you need to think about us, not these people. So, It would keep it less greedy, more simplistic, more peaceful, if that had been the case. And it can only be for temporary time, like just a few years. If even that, if he finishes it beforehand. Then you can go back, elect somebody else, and it's done with. So, that is what I'll say for Chancellor. For the Senate, these people are elected from their world, their governments, or things like that. This is how they do it. They elect them through democracy, and all that, vote on them and pick who they want to pick. Or some of them are actually a theocracy where they, elect people, where they pick a king or a queen, kind of like Padme Amidala. She's the queen of Naboo. Then there's the owners of the CEOs of trade federations or companies and stuff that represent their planets because they gave up a government in form of a corporate overlord. So, for me, the Senate would have to be, it's grown way too greedy. The higher the taxes just to even stay a part of the Republic. To me, it just, especially watching the Clone Wars, you see a lot more. Like the animated Clone Wars, I highly recommend you go watch it. I love it. I still got to finish it myself. I started as a kid, and they had ended it at a point, and then they resumed it years later, but I'd already grown up since then, and I had already moved on from that point. I wasn't able to watch it anymore, so I need to restart it and do it again. I loved it. So I know from the Clone Wars side, you see them, especially dealing with the Twi'lek slaves, the seeing how the Wookiees were treated, things like that. It's something to see, especially from that point. Because from the movies, you don't get much of that. It don't show as much. And it doesn't make you feel more involved as it should have. And so, you see some of the Senate, they're making deals with the trade federations. They're doing all this sneaky stuff. Being are you sure they're not going to trace it back to me so that way I can, stay on the Senate and keep making money because they won't accept the trade federation's money. And so, for me, I feel as though that there's nothing you could change really about it. That's just how it is. Do I feel as though that the people should go through a screening process before they're even allowed to become an advocate in the Senate? Sure, 100%. You should have public knowledge about everything they do and everything they go and stuff like that. Just like how our people are, pretty much. Somewhat. We need more of that anyway. But, so, that's the Senate. Judicial, I'm not even going to touch on them. They're just, there's not much else you can change about them. They're just law and order. And they're not even that good at it, really. I mean, we see countless times in the TV show and movies where they're supposed to be doing their job, and yet they ain't doing their job. Crime is on the rise in Coruscant and all these other places, and yet they're doing nothing. Honestly, for me, I'd toss them away and put them under a branch under the Jedi Order. Let the Jedi have a separate subdivision for Padawans and stuff to handle crime and stuff like that. And have judges be Jedi Masters. Well, no, because Jedi Masters. Yeah, let's do it because they got plenty of free time. So that would be judicial wise. So, in terms of isekai, which I said in my first video, that's what I intend on doing, is making it where, what would I do if I was isekai in there? How would I change this? How would I do differently? The only thing I would do differently if I was isekai in here was, if I was in one of their steps, is I would, instead of choosing Palpatine, I would have chose somebody else to be Chancellor. I would choose somebody else who I know is from a good system. I would have even probably recommended Padme. Or heck, let's do Jar Jar. Or Organa. Or somebody like that. Somebody where you can trust them more than suddenly just Palpatine. Now, mind you, that's because I know what's going to happen. They don't know, so they wouldn't know. Now, let's say, for instance, that I don't know. Then if that's good, I probably wouldn't change nothing. If I didn't know. Anyway, because I trust them. I knew them. Even though it does seem, even if I didn't know them, to me it would seem a lot odd. This whole situation. Where did the clones come from? Why did we make them? Why did they all of a sudden pop up at this exact moment when we need them? Why did the Trade Federation all of a sudden start invading a planet when they didn't do it before, you know? Like, that's the thing that gets me. Why are there nobody questioning what's going on? Like, that's what I don't get. Why is nobody questioning it? Why is nobody being like, where did this come from? Why is this here? The only ones who's even curious is the Jedi. And they're not even doing much. That's frustration about the whole thing. Is I feel as though I don't know how Yoda did not sit there and be like, maybe we should look into these clones a little more than we should. You know what I mean? Maybe we should look into them a little more. But they didn't, and it was their fault and their fall, and that's the reason why the Jedi fell. So that is the isekai part of what I would do if I was inside of it. I said I wouldn't change. There's not much I could change, really. If I could be there for when they wrote the Constitution for the Senate, then yes, I would change that. I would put in what I said about the Jedi. I put in what I said about the Senate and stuff like that. And for judicial, I would probably change it up a bit. Have them have not more power, but like certain clauses that be into effect. Like, for instance, over the judicial branch, you had to have like a Jedi Master over it. Keep the peace and whatnot, which some people might not agree with that because they'll be like, oh, well, now you're just being bipartisan or blah, 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 blah. I don't care. That's what I would do. Because why not use what you have at your disposal? Like, you have the Jedi. Use them. They're peaceful. They're less corruptible, but yet you won't use them. Which to me is just dumb. But anyway, that aside, I'll do another video on the Jedi Order as well. Those other things. I'm going to try to aim for about 20-minute videos on these things. Some of them will be longer. Like, for instance, this is my first government one, Republic. It's pretty simple, standard, and all that. The next thing I'm going to do is probably going to be a battle. Because I want to show like what I intend to do with that. Like, I intend to actually buy like battle maps and make them and stuff like that. And so we'll see how that goes. I'm curious myself, but that aside, let me see. Let me think of the next battle I want to do. How about this? I'll leave an option for 2, and let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you want to make one of the 2, I'm gonna do one in Warhammer. I'm gonna do one in Warhammer. Don't know which one, but I'm gonna do one. Just one individually. I'm gonna pick one. I'm gonna go through the list and pick one, see and read it and see which one I like. Or if I don't do Warhammer, I'm going to let me see what I was gonna dive into. I'll probably do an anime one that I like. Like, I might do some anime stuff as well, as not just Sci-Fi World. So I'll do one or the other. I'll do the Warhammer and anime battle. If you don't know the anime, I'll definitely let you know beforehand which at the front of the video which one it is, and I will explain the world as well. Like, if I ever do those videos, similar to Warhammer, which that'll take forever, but I'll do a synopsis of Warhammer. But I will explain certain ones. So, alright, that's the video for today. I appreciate you watching. Hope you liked it. Feel free to, I ain't gonna say all that. You know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and stuff like that. If you have anything to say, feel free to read in the comments. I'll read the comments. Probably about it after a few days or so. But I hope you liked the video. See you next time.